always searching for wild dogs, but we have an impala. We can't find any tracks of the wild dogs crossing out of Djuma, so they could be around here somewhere. They might have caught a big male impala in one of these blocks and gone to sleep. And the impala is so distracted, we're about to have a little argument here. And they're going to run, just go down, Dave. They might run straight into us. So they're so distracted with each other at the moment, they don't even notice us standing right next to them. Running back to try to keep the girls in one place. He's done badly. Last time I was here, he had about 40. He's down to 5. But no sign of the dogs just yet. Or Shadulu. I think Shadulu's gone north there. And so we're just carefully checking down where to the axis. We're actually sort of hitting an opening, because as it gets darker now with the clouds tonight, we're going to start slowly making our way back towards camp. Probably still a couple of k's away. It is beautiful out here this evening. Definite wintry feel to everything at the moment. The ground's getting dustier, the colour of the grass is changing, and I'm a big fan of the dry season. I really do love it. Tracking is also a lot easier. But I don't know, I've always enjoyed the dry season, even since I was a little boy. Especially up in northern Botswana, those massive herds of buffalo and elephant coming down onto the rivers. Excitement, dust. Lots of fun. Well, so Shadulu often does this loop. I didn't hear that. Did you hear that, Dave? Sorry, Kirst. Broke up there for a second. Oh, Hobie, have you got a track? No. Stop to double check. No track. Okay, well, as I said, those dogs could really just pop out anywhere around here at the moment. There's no tracks of them leaving. But hopefully they pop out in front of us. As it gets darker, we're going to start heading home and send you across to Steve to see what his plans are.
Well, no updates from the dogs. The tracks, I haven't found any yet. We're doing a bit of a scan around. So we'll keep trying. Keep trying. It is a nice sort of temperature. Good sort of running around hunting in impala kind of weather. Timothy, that is a very good question. I do not have the answer, but they roam much further than all the other animals. They just keep going and going and going and going. They have stamina to compete with no one. No one can compete with the wild dog and their stamina. Maybe hyena can, but hyena run during the night and they cover enormous distance sort of on their own, and then they call themselves together. But wild dogs' strategy is to chase animals down and to run them into the ground until they fall down and they basically get eaten alive. So, and they can cover enormous distances. I couldn't tell you the exact distance because I honestly don't know the answer to that. But they could go from probably the northern side of Kruger, of Sabi Sands, to the southern side in one morning, no problem. No problem. I remember my time at Singita down. I spent some time in the Sabi Sands, Singita, and the wild dogs would come in, they'd call the tracks, and within 5 minutes they were out the other side. And by no means is that a small property. The dogs just don't have the same boundaries we have. They just move. And they move in relation to food and their den site, obviously. But they can roam quite vast distances. Okay, well there we have got a leopard track coming in. Fantastic. Who is this? We're sort of back in the west, but in the northern side, around where Brent's looking for Shadulu. We have tried to find tracks of the dogs crossing, but there's been no luck there. So maybe they will, as Brent says, just pop out. But let's just keep going. Go back down here again, have another little squiz at the distance of these tracks. Get off the vehicle to have a look. Well, while I make a little bit of a head or tail of all this, let's go to Ralph with the 2 Birminghams.
Yes, everyone, and I've just been looking at my little bit of paperwork while VM shows you some close-ups of the anatomy of, I think that was Nsuku, the one lying on that side, and the other one being Tinyo. So Nsuku means gold, and Tinyo means tooth. So the two that we have here, was it, I think it was Tinyo and Nsuku that you guys said, yes. I'm still working out how to identify them, but the Birmingham Boys consist of 4 males, so the 2 that are missing, that are not here at the moment, is Nena, which means warrior, and Mfumo, which means authority. So there's those two not here. But Birmingham Boys, they're called such because they were born in 2013 on the farm Birmingham in the Timbavati. So that's quite away from here. So they've travelled quite a long distance to obviously come through here and dominate the Styx and Nkuhuma prides. Now I wonder with their travels down south from here, where and who they have been dominating. Must be other females there. I'm sure Brent knows, but I'm still catching up with all the information. So we're still sitting, waiting, hoping for them to roar and give us a show. But in the meantime, off to the bushwalk team. Something exciting over there.
Right. We've got something that is very elusive. They don't like being seen. They're trying to hide behind hats. We've got Alicia and Geraldine who've been jogging outside the reserve. Jerry's bad driving. She nearly ran into me. No, Jerry definitely nearly ran into me. Did you have a good run, Geraldine?
It was very productive.
No, it doesn't. It looked like you might have taken some apple juice and sat on the road rather than actually gone for a run. You just put exercise clothes on. Well, David, she nearly drove over you there.
Have you found a leopard yet?
No, they're all gone to the north.
Wow.
And there are wild dog tracks all around here. That's what we've been looking for. Alicia!
Why? Why must we do this? Why must we?
Because people...
Look at Herbie, look how sweet he is.
Herbie.
Okay, guys. You may pass.
Just know what? Just so I can
Stall, don't stall, Jerry, don't stall! I know. Look at that. They pretend... See, that's what they do. They pretend to go do exercise, but they actually just go watch the sunset and drink apple juice. Naughty, naughty. Naughty little cretins, those two. Sorry, it's not apple juice. Kirsten is correct. They drink grape juice. Generally from a white grape, those two. Okay. We still haven't had any tracks of those dogs coming out. There's a male leopard track that's been driven over by everyone, heading out into the west. Probably Hukamuri. Going out that way. But it's been driven over a lot, and I think it was from early last night. I actually heard, just before I went to bed last night, I heard a male leopard sawing up in this area at around 10 o'clock. So, probably the hook, he's probably all the way back down in the west somewhere again, but he'll be back. I'm still just sort of hoping for those wild dogs to just jump out of the bush next to us. Now, wild dogs have a lot of different vocalizations. They do have a bark, minamu, that is similar to a domestic dog, but they don't bark incessantly. So that bark is an alarm call. So if they spot a lion or something like that, they give a "Whoa!" And so it's more of a cough than a bark, I suppose, like a "Whoa!" And that's when they've spotted a predator. When they lose each other, they have contact calls. They're called woo calls. Woo, 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 woo. And that's how they try to locate each other. They've got lots of little chitters and squeaks when they're excited or when they're greeting or when they're regurgitating. So they've got quite an extensive vocal range. Not one of which we've heard today. Oh my goodness. I've got a feeling the dogs have to make an appearance before I go on leave, which is coming close. So fingers crossed. Maybe tomorrow morning is my dog morning. Okay. No, it's a hyena. Let's go across to Steve to see how his tracking's going.
Yes, well, not sure where that female has gone with her tracks. She was going back south, sort of towards our area. We just come to make another little look at that impala carcass that wildebeest and I found this morning. Just have a look if maybe someone materializes here after dark, as it's starting to get a bit darker. Carcass does look to be hanging a bit more than this morning, but I suppose that's what happens to meat when you leave it out to dry. It stretches and hangs. Okay, so Ralph has been here already. They've checked it. But, you know, it always pays to, because Djuma is apparently quite a skittish sort of leopard, and I remember many times in the past, leopards outside of Sabi sands, that you find them, or you find a kill in the morning, and then as it gets darker, you come back, and there they are. In the morning, they ran away. In the afternoon, much more relaxed. It's kind of the nature of the beast when it comes to this time of sort of day. But that is going to be it. We're going to go back and check the west, see if we can get inside of those dogs, and possibly... Oh, Lady Starfire. Wild dogs who go after whatever animal picks their fancy and shows themselves in front. So definitely this time of year is a plethora of male impala, not just for the leopards and the lions, but also for the wild dogs. So they pick whatever they can get. And the male impala, and I was looking at one earlier after we left those lions, one male impala was kind of sitting down and still doing his rutting calls. You could already see the bones on his hips starting to show, because he probably hasn't had a proper meal in about a week, and he's just running, chasing, gurgling, trying to mate, and he's probably not going to make the season. He might have started a bit too soon, when it's better to... And wild dogs will pick out those individuals, the weak ones, the one who's maybe limping a bit, looking a bit skinny, maybe having a bit of a wobble, those sort of things. So most certainly. And as soon as the impala see them, they will all just head for the hills. Okay, well, let's go back to Ralph and see if the Birmingham Boys are going to do anything about their meal this evening.
Well, all they've done for now is breathe and roll a little bit. Oh, there's a bit of movement. Hello. Come on, give us a stretch. A wonderful black mane, that. Very much like the Kalahari black-maned lions that we find in the desert. A very distinctive sort of genetic line, that as well. Those completely black manes. This is just getting a little bit darker around the bottom, but the Kalahari maned lions, it's completely black. And I think it has a lot to do with the area that they're in that desert type conditions, absorbing a lot of the light, I would say, because you have a lot of reflection of the rocks and so on. And so I think it's, dual purpose. Not only is it make them look mean and nasty, but it also, I'm sure, has an effect with the heat and the light in the sort of arid regions, because that's where you find the black-maned lions. Minamu, it's generally the males that have it's always the males that have the mane, because mostly to protect them when they're fighting between each other. So the male lions, they are sort of, through evolution, designed to fight with other males, and also obviously with that in mind, they need to look big and authoritative, and also to protect their neck area. So that's what it's all about. Males are designed for fighting, females designed for hunting and stealth. So they are real hunting machines, whereas males are real fighting machines. And it's not to say that males can't hunt. They're just not as good at concealing themselves and getting up close to animals without them knowing. But once the females have potentially grabbed a big prey like a hippo, or even going as far as elephant or giraffe or buffalo, and the male gets in the mix, well, it just makes that job so much easier because he can bring it down virtually on his own. I saw a male lion bring down a giraffe over a ton in Etosha National Park in Namibia. Now, as the sun starts setting and we wait for these lions to get up and give us a show, let's head on over to Steve with that beautiful sunset.
Absolutely gorgeous afternoon. And are there any words to describe the beautiful red glow of the setting orb of the sun? Enormous cloud buildup on the escarpment gives that beautiful red color. There's rain on the horizon. Very special time of day. We are privileged enough to just get to spend some time every afternoon. I wonder how many people out there physically try and watch the sunrise and set every day. It's quite a spiritual practice. Jennifer, I agree, absolutely gorgeous. Everything we know, all existence on this planet is due to that ball of fire in the sky. The best time of day to look at it now, because you can actually look through the atmosphere, and that's why it's got that red. The whole of Johannesburg and the Highveld is between us and the sun at the moment, and that's why that atmosphere with the dust pollution and all that sort of stuff gives it that beautiful, beautiful red glow. Just another moment with that before we move off. Commenting how big it looks today. It looks enormous. We are right up on the Buffelshoek boundary, and I'm going to just keep quiet for a moment. There's my moment. Beautiful. I love to spend moments just quietly looking at the sun. What is there to say, really, about a sunrise and a sunset, apart from it being absolutely beautiful? Well done, Eloise, well done. I'm very proud of you. I must admit that when I'm on leave, I struggle to watch every sunrise and sunset. I'm catching up on some sleep, but it is something that I think everybody should try and do every now and again. Just spend some time with the creation of life on Earth, really. The sun, all the photosynthetic potential it puts forward, and everything that's green, and the life around us, and all the interactions we see, all by the sun's energy, which if we could harness, we would solve all of our problems on the planet. We just get a few days of energy off that sunshine, and it would solve everything. One last look as it slowly goes behind the Drakensberg Mountains. Steve is complimenting Craig and his camera work. Thanks, Craigo. So between us and where the sun is setting, sort of the Drakensberg Mountain there, everything within that and north and south to a degree is falling in the biosphere reserve called the Blader or the Kruger to Canyon Biosphere Reserve, which encompasses farms, communities, wilderness, wildlife conservation areas, private land, homesteads. It's obviously aiming to create corridors for conservation, for humans living within the landscape. There's many organizations involved with these, try and make as much land available to fall under a conservation banner as possible. Slightly different to the Transfrontier reserves, which are basically nature reserves or game reserves across borders. The Biosphere Reserve, because we've realized that people are living in the landscape across the world. We need to be able to mitigate the damage they do and control them in some way and bring them into a broader sort of picture of conservation as a whole. And that's what these biosphere reserves are doing, and there's a number of them in South Africa. I wouldn't know too many elsewhere in the world, but very good initiative. On we go into the setting sun, and while we move off, let's go over to Brent and see what his thoughts are. I've no doubt he watched the sunset himself.
Well, we weren't the only ones watching the sunset. The giraffe have been watching us walk down the road. We're pretty close to home now. As you can see, it's getting quite dark already. So, it's a shame we'll leave the giraffe to keep watching us as we wander further down. Now, as we wander home, I have got a quiz for you. Haha! A quiz. It is a good one, I think. What African country this month had rhino reintroduced since the 70s? What African country just had black rhino reintroduced, and black rhino now roam wild and free in this country for the first time since the early 70s, when the population was wiped out by poaching? And if you can tell me which national park they're in, I'll be even more impressed. So, which African country for the first time since the early 70s has got black rhino, and which national park is it in? Hashtag Safari Live if you know the answer. It's very exciting. It's very much up there on my wish list of African countries and parks to visit. No, Kirsten. Well, there's a prize, Kirsten. It's a noddy badge, Kirsten. And you win it for being irritating. Very sarky in the air today. Sid, very good guess. But Rwanda, if I remember correctly, got their black rhino last year already. So, yes, it was another country, Akagera National Park in Rwanda. Got black rhino last year for the first time since the 70s. Yeah, Swaziland, I think there's been black rhino in Swaziland for quite some time, and white rhino as well. Being so close to South Africa, there's quite easy to move them. Now, this was a monumental task, and a huge... Tristan, what are you doing? Aren't you supposed to be on Game Drive on the mark, Tristan Dix? Tristan Dix is correct. It's Zakuma in Chad. And he's doing a report on the show. Oh, good. Well, good, Tristan. I hope you learned something new today. But yeah, so a massive undertaking by the government of Chad, the government of South Africa, National Parks of South Africa, who donated the rhino, and of course African Parks, who are running Zakuma and have helped the elephants come back from near decimation. So the park's elephant population dropped from there was about 4,500 in the 80s down to less than 400 10 years ago, and that elephant population is now steadily climbing, and they've reintroduced black rhino. So a really great success story, and African Parks is doing an incredible job working with African governments throughout Africa to try reinstate some of these magnificent game areas. So well done, Tristan. Although I would have expected you to know that, Tristan. Tristan says it's raining and he'd like a prize. Tristan, the prize you get is a whack on the head with my stick when I see you next. That's your prize. Okay guys, so as you can see, we've reached camp. It's getting a bit dark, and those male lions are very close to where we are. They're a couple of 100 meters down there. So we're going to make sure we're safe from male lions, because during the day they don't really pose a threat to us, but from this time of the evening into the darkness we become part of the food chain. So let's go see if they've decided to do more than just breathe.
They're still just breathing, but Brent is absolutely correct when he says that you don't want to be part of the food chain, because lions during the day, I wouldn't even have a problem walking near to lions during the day, but at night they're a completely different beast altogether, and so you need to be very cautious and not stay out after dark. And that goes for hyenas, lions. It's almost like, as the saying goes, they grow another leg. And it's quite strange, because at the moment we're hearing a lot of alarm calls. Now, whether or not it's just that these animals in the area have just realized that there's lions here, or if there's leopard around, or if there's potentially another 2 lions making their way down. So there has been quite a bit of calls, and especially from the wildebeest, which are just opposite us on the bank, where we can't see them but we can hear them. They have been grazing there the whole afternoon though. It would be rather silly of them if they haven't realized that these lions are here now. But the trouble is that sometimes one animal alarm calls and then the rest of them just alarm call because one of them did. So it's that classic case of allelo-mimetic behavior, copycat behavior. Somebody does something, we all just follow him, we don't really know why. It's almost like sheep. But this impala looks like he might be wanting to come down for a drink. I'm sure he'll also get a bit nervous if he sees these lions next to the pan. Jamie, I haven't heard any news of the Nkuhumas. Brent is a good one to ask for that. I'll ask him a little bit later. He's got his informers all around here. I don't really know too many people in this area. I do try and get information from some of my ex-students that work on some of the lodges around here, that I trained some of them or did part of their training with them. But I haven't heard anything of the Nkuhumas recently. But this is fantastic news that the Birminghams are back here. And that's Djuma Lodge in the background that you just saw. And these two still fast asleep. Not a worry in the world. Even when all the animals were alarm calling, you very often have, when the leopards are around and the animals start alarm calling, they very often run away and get away from the animals giving away their position. But lions, they don't care. They just carry on snoozing. Wonderful to see, though. And that is the ideal or the utmost best way to chill. They are chilling hard. You can't chill any harder than that. That is very relaxed. Michael, it all depends on what they eat, in terms of how much they must eat a week. So if they get something nice and big like that Dugger boy, the buffalo just downstream from where we are, that could set them up for a good part of 2 weeks. Also depending on how many mouths they feed. So it all depends on how much they eat, but a small feed like eating a warthog, they could eat every day. But something nice and big like a buffalo, that could last them up to 2 weeks. So, and then you've obviously got all the ratios of the different animals in between. If they get a kudu or if they get a zebra, obviously that's going to give them quite a nice lengthy period. I had one pride of lions in Etosha National Park on a giraffe, pardon me, and they stayed there for 2 weeks. In the end, it was not very nice, near to where they were eating. It really stank. But, well, the protein was still alright for them, and they just kept feeding on it. So, yeah, eventually it is, I think they can also leave it if they're not finishing it, because it can start getting really, past its sell-by date. It's probably only good for vultures and hyenas with their very acidic stomach. But lions can handle relatively decomposed meat as well. It probably makes it easier to digest, I would imagine. But don't often see them worrying too much about the age of the meat and how old it is and how much it stinks. They still get stuck in. But yes, they are sleeping for now. We still just hope that the show is imminent. And while we wait, off to Steve and see if he's got anything imminent.
Imminent? No, that's quite a big word. Imminent? No, we don't have anything imminent. We've passed some impala. They looked all pretty relaxed. If wild dogs had passed, they didn't tell us, so they didn't show that behavior. So we are right on the west now. Hopefully we're thinking, we might just bump into Shidulu or maybe Hukumuri, or maybe the other two Birmingham boys, wherever they might be. Wow. Lillian, that's a nice question. The biggest fright I've ever had in the wild. I've told this story before a few times. My second day in the bush, I decided to get out the car and see if there was a leopard nearby, because apparently there was a leopard in a kill with a kill up a tree, and I parked my car. I was very new, I was very green behind the ears, you would say, and I stepped out of the car to try and find out where this leopard was that wasn't in the tree anymore, and he was in the drainage line just below me, and he decided to come out with the teeth and claws bared, roaring a bellow that scared the living daylights out of me. But that's not what frightened me the most. The thing that frightened me the most was when I told my mum, her reaction. I'm only joking. Her reaction wasn't very bad, but I haven't seen her that upset with me in a long time. Yeah, so leopards, if they do charge, it is a frightening experience. So lesson number one, if a leopard has got a kill, give it space. Don't go walking in there. Don't go walking in there. They make an enormous amount of noise, and it just chills you to your core. Absolutely. That was a long time ago. There's been other sorts of frights and stuff, but we seem to manage and deal with them quite well. I think, not being afraid out here, but not, managing your fear. It's good to have a fear. If you don't have a fear out here, then you become too much of a cowboy, and then you're going to get yourself hurt. So it's fine to have fear, but don't let the fear control you and make change your decisions. Just still walk with a sense of curiosity and awareness, and be aware that wild animals are wild animals, and anything can happen, and don't ever forget that. That is the key. We are in their space, after all. We're just visitors, so it's important to respect them. And if there are any warning charges or warning marks or warning signs or whatever it might be, respect those. Don't think you're above that. And I think that's very important. As soon as you lose respect for the animal, you are going to get yourself or somebody quite badly injured. It's my opinion. So, Blake, I believe nature is the biggest healer we have out here, or anywhere. Just spending some time in the wilderness can do wonders for anybody. First of all, just the clean, fresh air, for one, is enormously beneficial to anybody. And then also the sounds in Africa. I've had many students, many guests, many people that have visited once, and they're hooked. In like 2-3 years, they come back 5 or 6 times. They just can't get enough of this place. If you come from a very busy country, very built-up place like Germany, for example, where things are very busy, coming out here will completely turn whatever belief system you have on its head. And the healing power out here, it's not just what it can do for your energy or for your breathing, but it's de-stressing. You come out here and you forget about your iPad, and you forget about all the technologies and the emails that you need to check. We do need to check our phones quite regularly to keep up to date with certain things, but it's amazing when you turn those things off how quickly you just fall back into the rhythm of nature. And nature is an enormously powerful element. I mean, we were all born in nature long time ago, and we decided to crowd ourselves into enormous cities where we block out the sounds, smells and everything. The sense of community even in cities is disappearing. You know, I come from Johannesburg where the walls just get taller and the electric fences more electric. You know, and everybody drives to work in their own car. Traffic is horrendous. There's no sense of community. And that's what's lacking a lot in the world and in cities. So everyone's out to get everybody. And out in nature you realize that animals are very peaceful and they're just here to be, you know, just here to be. I think when you understand that, you look at human nature very differently. So I love being out here. Love it. I haven't met a single person who's left a trip in Africa and gone, that was pretty average. Not going to go back there. They come back, the bug bites, the African bug bites, and once it bites, you know, I'm not talking about tick bites or mosquitoes, because malaria can be recurring, but once the African bug bites you, you come back again and again. I've got quite a few old guests that just come all the time. I think if I wasn't working in the bush, they would definitely be going to the bush more than I do, because it's just quite profound. You don't have to see anything. You don't have to, like right now we haven't seen anything in some time, but the fresh air, the smells, the silence. Like, do you hear the cars revving past us there, or the aeroplanes, or the factory generators? No, you don't hear them. Even if Kirst put the ambient right up, you wouldn't hear them. So we are in a very nice wilderness area. And it's magical to just be out here. It's a sense of place, you could say. And there are so many different areas in the wilderness. You don't have to be in a wildlife area like the Kruger Park. Just a forest or a park, anywhere green with open space, can be really, really good for the soul. Okay, so something that really invigorates my soul is when lions call. So let's go over to Ralph and see if his cats are anywhere near doing something like that.
Okay, everybody, sorry, we are bundu bashing a little bit because we've got monkeys that are going nuts just near to us, but I've decided we just came just directly towards where the monkeys were calling, but it's getting a little bit thick here, so we're not going to continue just bundu bashing there, both for the sake of the vegetation and for the vehicle, so we're going to have to head back and try and hit the road. I'm pretty sure it's a leopard. It's either that or another couple of these lions, maybe the other two that are missing. So we're just going to drive over a little bit of these fallen logs here, and I'm going to go back to the road, back past those lions. You can just go over this dead branch, and then back up there. Just listen for a second. I'm pretty sure it's a leopard that is very close here. So we're right near to this, but unfortunately the bush is too thick for us to get through here. And it's right next to the lodge. I'm pretty sure it might be at that Gallagher pan. So we're going to try and loop around and just try and catch up and see if we can get there. They're still going crazy, and that is definitely a predator. So let's just see. I'll just get out of that thick stuff and we'll go out of low range. We can speed up a little bit. I just need to I don't want to really bundabash through here. I think the safest bet is just to go back to the road and drive around. So we'll do that. Very exciting, this. If we can get towards where these monkeys are calling, which will be quite easy. I'm pretty sure it's just there at Gallagher Pan. But we need to move pretty fast. I don't want to drive just fast just yet. Once we get on a nice clean road, then I'll speed up. Try and get us there a bit faster. But I can fall into a couple of holes here, so I'm just trying to, as I say, save the vehicle, because Steve will tell you how quickly you fall in a hole. He did that the other night, into an aardvark hole, and here in the riverbed there are lots of holes as well. Gina, thanks for your question. These cats can regularly land up in our campsite, so we need to be very careful. I think there might be a gap through here that we can go up. Let's just have a quick look. Looks quite clear. So Gina, yes, we need to close our gates. We actually need to close the kitchen doors and put the dustbin away every night, because we have every chance of leopard, lion, and particularly hyena who come for the dustbins walking through our camp. So the hyenas are probably the most common. Second being leopard. I think last night there was a leopard that walked right past the camp. It didn't come inside the gate, but it walked right past. And then we often have lions walking past as well, and there can also be elephants which come into the camp as well, mostly when the marulas are around. So at the moment there's nothing really to attract the elephants in, except for if we had a lot of citrus fruit that they could come looking for, because you know that elephants love oranges and lemons and nachis, or clementines as you would call them, I think they are, nectarines, plums, and anything that's fruity and tastes sweet. The elephants love that. Okay, so we do need to be careful, Gina. Need to be very careful. We actually have the rule around camp. You have to walk with a bright torch, because you know it's like that case. If you just try it at night, shine a bright torch into somebody's eyes, you can't see what's behind that torch. And so the animals are quite nervous when you shine a bright torch in their eyes. The only animal that you don't do that to is an elephant, because they really don't like you shining torches in their eyes, and they come to get rid of it and swat it away. So you don't shine in elephants' eyes, but any of the predators, shine in their eyes and back away. That's the rule. Back away and get into the closest room if you come across a predator. It's quite interesting because my little boy, my firstborn, he was... there's those monkeys calling again now. He also grew up in the game reserve, and he had many of these... Let me grab my spotlight. So I'm also just trying to be careful of the rooms there, everybody, because wherever this leopard is, he's just behind the rooms. So I don't want to invade people's privacy, but we do want to see if there's a leopard here. And these monkeys are barking. That must be something there. I think I'm going to back up just a little bit and see through that other gap. These monkeys are still calling. It's a little bit before Gallagher Pan, but we're in the right area now, and we're on a road. Okay, everyone, while I try and see where this cat is, let's try and get in a little bit closer. But let's head you on over to Steve, who I think has got his night vision out now, like us as well.
We do have our night vision. We are in the infrared spectrum. Sorry if I blind you with my spotlight there. We are looking as always for something, and if Ralph has moved off from the Birmingham Boys, well then I think, Kirsty, if you're okay, we're going to sneak back in there and maybe get them roaring before the end of the show. Before the end of the show, we're not far away, but we never want to go too fast. You never know what you might see along the way. We just had a very brief glimpse of a pearl-spotted owlet that we tried to frame up, but They're crepuscular. It's past their sleepy time. So he slept off, slunk off, flew off. I think it was a pearl spotted. It could have been a barred. Didn't get a proper look. They are very similar. Easily confused for the size. We're only a few minutes away from Hello Anthony AJ, do you want to know about our speed bumps? These are actually called bolster, and there is the drainage channel. The objective of this bolster is for the water that comes down the road, it goes off the road. The object is to not to slow down the cars, is to get the water off the road. That is the objective, and I know it looks and feels like speed bumps, and sometimes the cameramen at the back give me a hard time because I give them a hard time with the bumps. But it is primarily to get the water off the road. We've created roads which means water would want to run down the easiest channel, and by doing that causes erosion. So if you don't have a bump, see another one here, and you should have these drainage lines cleared off the side so that the water goes off, and that prevents the water from washing away the road, which is the primary objective of it. Because obviously in nature you wouldn't naturally get roads like this just through the middle of nowhere. There'd always be some form of vegetation in the way, unless it was a game path, but then still animals seem to sort of meander along game paths. There's another one, nice big drainage off the side, you can see here, just to get all the water off. Every half a meter change in the gradient you need to have a bump. Okay, well let's see if Ralph's managed to find anything from the monkey alarm calls.
Can I go left here? Hello everybody, yes, we're just, we've spot, oopsie, watch out, there's a bump there. Okay, we're going down this way. We're now following up on where we've spotted the monkey in the tree, and we're looking at the direction that he's looking. He's still calling, but he's definitely looking towards the Galago pan. So that's where we're headed. All very exciting. And there's a little bush baby calling as well, a very high-pitched meow, meow. So let's go up here around the corner. That monkey is right up on the top of the tree looking here towards this pan. So let's hope, and directly in front of us we've also got a wall of rain. It is happening tonight, isn't it? I had a feeling today when I was running, and it was extremely hot. It had that type of thunderstorm feel to it today. And it looks like it might be coming true. Lots of rain up ahead there. So yes, we're just coming around here. We're going to be coming up towards Galago Pan in a second. Let's have that last minute leopard. Come on. I'm hoping so too. Where are you and what are you? What is your name? Where are you? I don't see anything here. Let's just sit tight for a little while. Kristen, the reason why bush babies are called as such, their Latin name being Galago, but the reason why they're called bush babies is because of the thick-tailed bush baby, which is probably the most common, and they go like a real baby. That's the noise that they make, like a crying baby. Ah, 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 ah. That's the noise that a bush baby makes. So that's the thick-tailed. The little lesser bush babies, they make, which was jumping around there now, very high-pitched squeals and little beep, 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 beep. And they can also do a bit of a beep, beep, beep. That's all he was doing there in the thickets there. But they can jump up to 5 meters, which is incredible. Yeah, a little bit like car alarms, says Kirsten in FC. Absolutely. And now it's got very dark, so that monkey has now maybe lost visual on whatever was walking here, and we're not seeing it. What a shame. I'm hoping that if we stay here a little bit longer, we might spot it. But maybe it's still down in that drainage line. tell you, it's really sometimes just the luck of the draw, hey? You just need to be at the right place at the right time. We know that there's a predator here now. That monkey isn't lying. He's really concerned because there's a spotted cat walking around here. He's told us so. But exactly where is the problem? Okay, fantastic. It seems like I'm playing tag team with Steve. He's back at Voyatella Dam. We'll carry on searching for the spotted cat, but he's with the lions.
Thank you, Ralph. These lions have done almost nothing since we left. I think all they've done is gotten a little bit closer to each other. And what we didn't notice earlier was that the one on the left is nowhere near as full as the one on the right, which is awesome. There must have been some squabble. Nsuku and Tino, and Nsuku is the one that's fuller. That one there, I remember seeing him earlier, and Tino is the one that did not get the impala, I suppose. It's possible that something was killed and they didn't share. That often happens if one individual is the one making the kill and it's small enough to defend, then it'll go uncontested. And you see it quite often with lions when they feed. I think, Craig, you were with me when we followed the Unkuhumas off that night, eh?
Yeah.
From Bavusuk. You can even get a youngster that might grab a piece and move off, and anyone that tries to approach, there will be growls and snarls, and it's kind of like just like an unspoken rule. The others will just leave. They won't try and steal that little morsel or bone or leg or fillet or head or whatever it is that has been stolen. I kind of respect the toy. Those of you who were with me right in the beginning in January, when we had the Unkuhumas with those tortoises, I weren't giving them up. It's only when the one didn't, look the other way, they were stolen. Tom, I don't think there's really a leader in the pride. Invariably, coalitions are brothers. If they're not brothers, then they're similar-aged lions that have come together to form a coalition for the benefit of themselves. And there's no real leader. Just like I'm talking about food, what you'll see when it comes to mating, the first male to sort of spot or smell an estrus female, he's in charge of that female. There won't be any competition for her. I'm not saying the males won't follow him for days while he mates with that female, but invariably the first one to come across the female is sort of the one who will cover her. But there's no real leader. You might get different personalities in a pride. You might get different individuals that might instigate the fight or go in and attack another male before the others do, or whatever it might be. They might lead forward, but I've never really noticed a leader per se in a coalition of male lions. It's possible there is something like that, but it's nothing I've ever personally witnessed before. It just seems to be the one that gets there first, seems to be in charge of the day's play. And because they are assisting each other, there's like a gentleman's agreement between them. They don't want to fight physically. They do have scraps and little punch-ups, but it's nothing nearly as serious as proper fighting. Yes, well, there's always some form of sort of what we think to be real aggression, but what it is just being a lion, I mean, if you see a pride feeding, there's an enormous aggression showed between members while they're feeding, but they love each other. As soon as the meat is gone and the bloodlust is out of the nose, they go and lick each other and apologize for the noise they made. But that is part and parcel of being a lion. If they didn't do it, they wouldn't get to the sort of stage that they're at, the evolutionary stage that lions are at. They would be a weak species. So that competition, which is ingrained from, as I mentioned, I think in the school drive, from the suckling stage all the way up to dominance and male coalitions, is all very important from a sort of genetic point of view and moving forward. If there wasn't any fighting, there wouldn't be scraps. The lions wouldn't be as strong as they are. They wouldn't be able to fight as well as they do. And obviously, because these guys are a coalition, they need to keep their bonds together. When we first saw them, when Tino came and joined the other young gentleman, there was a bit of face rubbing, a very quick little face rub, but they often, as you can see, sleep really close to each other. They take comfort in each other's presence, because as two, they are stronger than one, and as three, they are stronger than two. So they know that. They don't want to sort of get rid of the third musketeer, so to speak. So it's important for them to keep their bond strong. And yes, the fighting that we see, we might think is unbelievable, but in lion terms, it's really just part and parcel of being a lion. Well, in all honesty. Okay, well, it looks like Ralph is searching in all the nooks and crannies for a leopard. Let's see how he's doing.
Well, everyone, I'm coming to where, you know what, you'll never believe me, but last night, after I had spent pretty much the entire last part of the drive looking for leopard, not finding anything, I think we had the odd scrub hare, and we were talking about all sorts of things and the lack of animals to see, and we literally went off air, the show finished, and Hosanna was here. So, yes, we were very happy to see him, but we were quite disappointed that he decided to show himself literally as soon as the show had finished. So I'm heading back to exactly where we saw him and hoping that he might pop his head out. Anthony, who is 8 years old, thank you for your question. Thank you so much. Generally, the leopards that do come into camp, like Hosanna, he's very relaxed around people, and he won't hurt anybody, no. Just all we do is we take our bright torches with us, and if we see a leopard, we just shine in his eyes, and then we can go in our room very quietly. Now, there's lots of impala around here, so that tells me that he's not here. So, Anthony, we don't really need to worry too much. We don't just walk around without a light. We must go around with the torch. That is very important. So we must be very careful because they are dangerous animals, but if we just follow those small little rules, we'll be fine. And we don't need to worry too much about Hosanna. He's a very kind cat to us. He likes being around people. He's often in this area, and well, I'm trying to find him now. I'm actually going to turn around because I'm going to land back with Steve, and Steve can be on his own now with those lions. I'm still looking. Sorry for the dust. That's just from us on the road. Okay, so it seems my search here is being a little bit unsuccessful, but I'm going to continue on. In the meantime, off to Steve, who is still with those beautiful lions.
Yes, we are indeed, and the minutes are counting down. And James had them calling in the last moments of drive the other day, but I think that was before we had the half an hour earlier shift. So I think they might be waiting for 6:15 South African time before they bellow out their calls. Hello, Lily, age 7. You want to know a very interesting question of whether these males returned because the evokers were calling, and I have no doubt that is what happened. They heard the challenge from a very long way away, and they came charging. Now, I'm wondering if there was more than 2, or if all 4 of them came up. They seem to spend a lot of time together, these cats. As I mentioned, the coalition is only as strong as its weakest link, and if they came up with just 2, maybe that's how confident they are. James was discussing it the other day on the Saturday show that these cats, these boys, have been in a lot of scraps. You can see it by their face, you can see it by just their entire attitude. They've seen a lot of action, and the evokers have come in with a little bit of arrogance, I would say, probably not having too many scraps. Their faces don't look too battle-scarred, and they've come in and they thought they've claimed a territory, and they have been calling. I don't know where they are at the moment, and these males have come back to try and oust the challengers. And I have no doubt that those of you who are watching the Dam Cam this evening, especially with the audio that it produces, will be listening closely to these boys as they wake up and announce their presence in Djuma. Because if you didn't know what Djuma meant, it is the roar of the lion. It's been a marvellous afternoon with the monkeys alarm calling to show us the way. We had planned to head to Chitwa for some action, and we only got a minute out of camp before hearing the monkeys. And as you know, I've told you my most reliable alarm call is monkeys. and Kuru or Nyala. And there we go. We had the male lions coming in. It amazes me how far the monkeys saw them from. But from Brent and the walking team, they saw some amazing tracks and spiders. No other cats this afternoon from the tracker team or Ralph himself. But it has been a marvelous afternoon from everybody here. We've enjoyed the questions and the commentary. And thank you from FC and all of you at home. Please join us again early tomorrow morning for another show on Safari Live. Have a beautiful night. We'll see you then.